Despite what's been going on over the last few years, it turns out that the meaning of words is important. Words don't actually mean whatever the people in charge say they mean. Centralized isn't the same as decentralized, and an illiquid thing is not simultaneously liquid. Objective truth is actually important, and we can't let people get off the hook on this in crypto. Ready? Let's go. Today, we're going to discuss the corruption of the meaning of liquid staking in crypto, Coinbase giving Cardano even more credit, false metrics and Solana, and the fallout from the First Republic acquisition. If you feel like 2 out of these 3 surfers are not sitting on their surfboards at all, or if you're finding value in these videos each weekday, please consider delegating to the Army of Spies stake pool, ticker AOS. There's this very strong human temptation to move the goalposts when reality doesn't quite conform to expectations. When the current metrics don't shine an optimally favorable light on whatever it is you're trying to do, there's this really strong urge to change the metrics. Why go through all the work of making reality conform to your expectations when you can make the expectations conform to whatever is the current reality? And we see a lot of this in crypto. We've talked over and over again about the misuse of the term decentralization. Every project talks about decentralization, and no matter how centralized they are, they describe themselves as decentralized, even if they are the exact opposite. Probably, and I have no idea what it would be, but whatever is the very most centralized project in all of crypto, they probably throw around the word decentralized all the time. They probably bandy about talking about how they're the decentralized whatever they are. They probably use that word all the time, despite being the most centralized thing in all of crypto, whoever they are. We also see this, and maybe it's more perverse. It might even be a worse corruption of the meaning of the phrase liquid staking. In crypto, we see a lot of corruption of this phrase. Why? Because it explains the fact that Ethereum is in love with derivatives. Ethereum has this gigantic staking derivatives sector. I don't even know what else to call it. We'll call it a staking derivatives sector. It's gigantic. It's thriving. There's a lot of money locked up in it. But that doesn't sound cool. Calling it a staking derivatives protocol doesn't sound cool. So instead, they call it liquid staking, because we all know, we've talked about this so many times, but we all know Ethereum staking involves slashing, which means you cannot have custody. If you cannot have custody of your assets, I would say that's pretty illiquid. There is no liquidity there if you do not have custody. So what did Ethereum do? They created staking derivatives. You lock up your coins with somebody who's going to lock them with the stake pools, and they give you another coin, a derivative coin. They give you a derivative instrument that you can use to trade here and there, do all of your DeFi degen stuff that you would have normally done with your Ether. You can't do that because the stake pools need your Ether so that it can be slashed, because there is no security in Ethereum staking. Your coins can be slashed at any time if your stake pool does the wrong things. So they give you this derivative instrument. The problem is it's a centralized point of failure. You're trusting that staking derivatives platform. You're trusting that your derivative will be convertible back into your original asset. But you've given up that asset. So if that central point of failure fails, one day, if it fails, it may not be as convertible as you want it to be. And in fact, it doesn't even have to completely fail. It could just lose its peg, because this is crypto, and everything in crypto has a value that may fluctuate. So this derivative, its peg to the original asset, may fluctuate. I think we've all seen this happen many, many times in crypto with stable coins and bridged assets. You've got some kind of a derivative of something else. And what you really want is for that derivative to always be exchangeable for the original asset. You always want to go back to the original asset. And we've seen those pegs fail and slip and deviate over and over again. This situation I'm describing to you is not true liquid staking. This is not. This is a derivative of an asset that is staked. It's not true liquid staking. And yet, that's what they've got in Ethereum because they can't have true liquid staking because it's a slashing proof of stake system. In my opinion, an inferior proof of stake system, an inferior genre of proof of stake, easier to create. It makes all the sense in the world. How do we control for bad behavior by validators of the blockchain? Let's make them stake some coins and then we delete those coins. We take those away if they do anything we don't want them to do. If they engage in any behavior we don't want, we just take their assets. It's very straightforward, very logical, and not very creative. It's what you would invent if you were just thinking about this problem. You'd say, make them put up some money, and then if they do anything we don't like, we take the money. We see this in all kinds of traditional sectors, all kinds of, money locked in escrow, and you lose the money if certain things happen. This is a very normal thing in the traditional world, and we see it with this type of proof of stake. Not very creative, not very innovative like Ouroboros, which is a non-slashing staking system that we have in Cardano. Non-slashing proof of stake. It's innovative and it works, and there's no chance of loss of your assets from slashing because there is no slashing. But what they've got in Ethereum is this slashing form of proof of stake, and so they've also got these derivative protocols. But like I said, it doesn't sound cool, so instead they call them liquid staking solutions, and the mainstream crypto media covers it like this. Liquid staking solutions now have more TVL than DEXs, according to DeFi Llama. From April 13th to May 1st, TVL on decentralized exchanges declined by 1.66 billion, while it increased on liquid staking protocols by 280 million. They say liquid staking solutions such as Lido and Rocket Pool now have more total value locked, more TVL, than decentralized exchanges, DEXs. And here you can see the original post that spawned this article from DeFi Llama. For the first time, the liquid staking category has surpassed DEXs in TVL, making it the leading category in DeFi by TVL dominance. If we come over here to DeFi Llama, you can see that what that article was describing is actually true. Lido is the biggest DeFi protocol by a long way. We've got Lido at 11.53 billion, according to this. And the next biggest is MakerDAO at 7.27 billion, Aave at 5.16, Curve at 4.2, and then a bunch of the other usual suspects, Uniswap and etc. So there is a note about this. Obviously, because this is liquid staking, or really a liquid derivative, a staking derivative, not even a liquid derivative, a staking derivative. Because it's a staking derivative, you're going to have some double count here because people are using this staking derivative protocol so that they can then take those coins and do things like lock them up in MakerDAO. So some of this money could be the same money. But as far as money that's been deposited into these protocols, Lido is gigantic compared to some of these other protocols. The problem is, and the article is pointing out, that liquid staking is now has the biggest protocols in it. The problem is, this is not real liquid staking. If we ask, what is actually the biggest liquid staking protocol, the answer is not Lido. That's explained here in this thread. Cointelegraph posts that same article we were just looking at, and Cardano comes along and says, the biggest liquid staking protocol is Ouroboros on Cardano with approximately 8.9 billion TVL, but you all aren't ready for that discussion. And I know you're thinking, hey, you just said that Lido had something like 11 billion and change. How is Ouroboros on Cardano the largest at 8.9 billion TVL? That's all explained in this thread under the actual post from DeFi Llama, where they said the liquid staking category has surpassed DEXs and TVL. Jane responded, how do you not count the liquid staking of Cardano? Blows all other protocols away. This poster agreed, said all part of their sophistry. And then down here below, you'll notice a post from not Cardano. Looks like Cardano, but it's actually Homonestic. Homonestic says, explain to me as a 5-year-old. My token is not in my custody. I'm given an IOU, which needs trust for one-to-one redemption. Whereas in Cardano, my staked ADA is in my full custody. No lockup, no slashing, and can be used in DeFi. Both can be termed liquid. Obviously, this poster is pointing out that they are both not liquid in the same way. The word liquid means something very different in Cardano. How can it be liquid if you don't actually have access to it? What we're talking about is liquidity in a derivative, which is not the same as liquidity in your actual asset. If somebody, if you have a car and you lend it to your friend or you lend it to the valet and he gives you a piece of paper that says, hey, I have your car, exchange this for one car. I mean, you could go around and sell that piece of paper that says exchange it for one car, but if the valet or your friend, whoever actually has the car, refuses to honor that piece of paper, it's not the same as actually having your car. And in the case of going to a restaurant and giving your car to the valet, we don't worry too much about losing the car. I'm sure it happens, but it's not something you normally worry about. But this is crypto. Things happen to crypto assets. And no matter how safe something seems, whenever somebody takes your real asset and gives you an asset they just sort of made up and they say, don't worry, these two are pegged, these two are equivalent. We've seen that little plan, that little scheme, that little arrangement, we've seen that fail over and over and over again. Liquidity in a derivative asset is not the same as liquidity in an asset you actually have custody of. This whole custody thing is important. Sure, you can say that those derivative instruments, you have liquidity in those derivative instruments. You can do whatever you want with them. Sure, but that's not the same as having liquidity in the actual staked asset. We shouldn't let people off the hook on this. They should have to call that derivative liquidity or something like that. It's not the same as liquid staking. This is a case where definitions matter. Cardano has actual liquid staking. This thing with derivatives, that's not liquid staking. It's not the same. And I wish everybody would point it out, just like these posters have here. Whenever somebody calls derivative, liquidity and derivative staking instruments liquid staking, people in Cardano should point out that's not real liquid staking. If you don't have custody of the actual asset, it's not liquid staking. This is derivative liquidity, which is different. Speaking of Cardano getting its due credit, look at this. Here's a post from Stake with Pride. He says, Coinbase has started adding Cardano to their job descriptions. And you can see this does look like a Coinbase ad, a job ad for a staff blockchain engineer -- developer. And you can see they want an API-based crypto platform that will enable developers to interact with heterogeneous cryptocurrency networks such as Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Cardano. This is something new. This is a new thing for Coinbase to be talking about Cardano in job ads. That's because the prominence of Cardano is rising and rising. Man, it seems like Solana is taking a beating in the public eye lately. I see more and more criticism of Solana, including threads like this. So this is one of those threads. I haven't double checked any of this. I'm not presenting any of this as truth. I can't vouch for the accuracy of any of this. I'm not presenting this as fact. But certain accusations are being made here about Solana, and it's kind of an interesting read. You might want to check this out. This poster says, Solana isn't as popular as it seems. Through false metrics, it attracted investors who believed in an inflated and fake activity, a long, thought-provoking thread. And look at this beautiful image he's given you about how thought-provoking the thread is. He looks like he's in a swamp there, and he's having deep thoughts about Solana, obviously. So here are some of the accusations it looks like he's going to make in this thread. He says, Solana saw an explosive growth in the last bull run. Among the reasons were low fees, low block time. But today we will talk about other key reasons. Fake TPS, that's transactions per second. Fake DAU, daily active users, fake TVL, total value locked, fake decentralization, fake supply, and dirty money. So I'm not going to go through the accusations he's making here. And again, I'm not presenting them as fact or accurate or vouching for truthfulness. I'm just saying these accusations are being made. I'll leave it to you to go read this thread and make up your own mind. But I thought everybody should be aware that there is some pretty harsh criticism of Solana going on right now. Finally, it looks like the First Republic debacle kind of played out like everyone was expecting / fearing. So this is an article in the New York Times called "Late Night Negotiating Frenzy Left First Republic in JP Morgan's Control." The resolution of First Republic Bank came after a frantic night of deal-making by government officials and executives at the country's biggest bank. Yes, that is JP Morgan Chase. So here you can see it at about 1 a.m. Monday, hours after the FDIC had been expected to announce a buyer for the troubled regional lender. Government officials informed JP Morgan executives that they had won the right to take over First Republic and the accounts of its well-heeled customers, most of them in wealthy coastal cities and suburbs. And of course, Jamie Dimon of JP Morgan Chase said, "This part of the crisis is over." It's a little ominous. He's had some things to say about where he thinks the economy is going. And of this, he just said, "This part of the crisis is over." And of course, the really interesting thing here was that there was a rule. The rule was this: normally a bank cannot acquire another bank if doing so would allow it to control more than 10% of the nation's bank deposits, a threshold JP Morgan had already reached before buying First Republic. But the law includes an exception for the acquisition of a failing bank. And here's some more information. Why would JP Morgan want to do this? He added that JP Morgan was likely to make a lot of money from the acquisition. JP Morgan said on Monday that it expected the deal to raise its profits this year by $500 million. Oh, only $500 million. JP Morgan will pay the FDIC $10.6 billion to acquire First Republic. The government agency expects to cover a loss of about $13 billion on First Republic's assets. Of course, the crypto world had some things to say about this. We always have a lot of things to say about the fiat world and all of the train wrecks that happen over there. So Arthur Hayes, who we've talked about before many times on the channel, said, "A longer essay coming soon on my take. This JP Morgan First Republic deal means the US regulators decided to nationalize the banking system." He goes on to explain the 8 too big to fail banks are effectively nationalized because they have a government guarantee on their entire deposit base. They will not be allowed to fail regardless of decisions they make. Socialized losses, privatized gains. It's a great deal, but when called upon, the 8 too big to fail banks must absorb their terrible cousins who couldn't handle the rough and tumble free market. The prodigal children's equity holders will get a zero first, but the depositors will find a new home in a safe too big to fail bank. The government will provide rule exemptions and mates rates on loans, like how the OCC waived deposit contraction limits, and FDIC loaned $50 billion to JP Morgan to get them to do the deal. But a deal will get done. The whole point is for the federal government to claim it isn't bailing out a failed bank, but a private company is. It's a bit of left hand, right hand, but those are the politics of the day. Just look at how China allocates losses as a blueprint for the U.S. True. As long as inflation remains high and the politics surrounding banking, credit, and debt are toxic, there will be more contorted solutions to try to confuse you as to who bears the loss. If you aren't one of the 8 too big to fail banks, you are going to have a bad day as long as inflation is sticky at these high levels and possibly rising. Today, I will choose, and he goes on to explain, due to the U.S. debt ceiling debacle, no banks can get bailed out by the government. This is the perfect point of political paralysis to capitalize on another, probably several non-too big to fail banks getting deaded by the FDIC. We'll see if those predictions turn out to be true or not. I hope you're still having a great week, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.